All right, here we go. Well, everyone, thank you so much again to Emily Perkins. Head on over to her Twitter to help support her cause that she has been cycling for, I believe. So you can donate on over there. Again, thank you, Perks, for being part of our show today. Hello, everyone. Welcome to I don't know what episode it is, but week 2 of the LCS of Facecheck here in the 2021 season. dGon, Dom, and LS here to break down all the action. Guys, we had a lot of matches this week. Again, getting used to this whole 15 matches a day. How were your co-streams, Dom?
Oh, they're good, man. It's good to have people back. It's super fun to just be like on even footing again, you know? Like I just love it. Like the thing is, you don't know where you're missing until it's gone, I guess. So like when you get the co-streams back, you know, I'm not missing one game. I'm never gonna miss a game with knowing what it's like on the outside.
LS, how was yours? You didn't miss a game, right?
I think I only missed one game this week, but it was because I couldn't avoid it. I had like obligations that I had to do. But yeah, I only missed one game.
Was it the game that you left Nemesis alone to like shoutcast for like 30 minutes?
No, not that one. It was the final game of day 2. I missed that game. I actually LEC let me go early to actually get to LCS, and so I didn't even miss that game when I was on LEC this week.
Actually, I mean, I did kind of miss that game. Like I only watched half of it, but it was because I was like in the middle of LEC, and you know, I can't ditch the LEC boys that have been there, you know, the whole time. So I guess I kind of missed the game, but it's not like it's like the LEC schedule bled into LCS once.
Yeah, you guys are grinders with just how much you're watching on both leagues. I can barely keep up with the LCS. With that, we had some very good matchups this week with some top teams going head to head with each other, and some surprises with other teams resurging up, and then teams that were, you know, fighting to be at the top went a little bit lower across the board as we take a look at the overall leaderboard here. Cloud9 and 100 Thieves tied at first place. Of course, Cloud9 has the tiebreaker after defeating 100 Thieves this week, but when I looked up the standings, that's the way that they had it written. And then Dignitas and TSM in third place tied with each other. Then EGTL, FlyQuest, Immortals, and then bringing up the rear, not alone anymore, it's CLG and Golden Guardians. How do you feel like this week shook out?
Dignitas is a fake 4-2, by the way. Like they just have had an easy schedule so far. They've had like Golden Guardians, Immortals this week. They got one like good win out of EG, but man, Dignitas being 4-2, it reminds me of looking at the standings when like Immortals last spring was 5-1 or something. And people were like, dude, look, they're gonna do it, man. They got Ica and Xmithy and Soaz. They're gonna be like one of the playoff teams, and they just dropped like a rock, ended in like 9th place. That's what's gonna happen to Dignitas again.
Well, let's start there then, and I don't think it has to be that long. Let's take a look at it. One of our favorite segments of the show, but this time a little bit different. SoloQ watch on full board here, because last week we definitely said, hey, you know, they're probably 10th place. Where's the firepower coming from? 1 and 2 lucky win. This week they rip off 3-0, and SoloQ and the rest of the team. Actually, I would say that Afromu probably played a big part of it. He got threshed multiple times. It was just sending him up. LS, what do you think about Dignitas? Oh, sorry, I didn't hear that you. Are you okay? Is everything good?
Yeah, it's okay. Oh my god, no. Dude, I just got so scared actually. Okay. My door is just open a crack and I'm just being stared at, and I like, oh man, I wasn't acting. All right, I'm sorry.
All right.
Okay.
All right, glad that you had the scare there. I just wanted to glad that you're okay from the scare there. Just wanted to make sure that you're okay. All right, let's start off with the real business though. Cloud9 and with actually the game of the week that we had, which was Cloud9 versus 100 Thieves. Let's start there. I think that's the one I want to start with. Do we have that one? Yeah, we should have that one. There we go. Game of the week. Cloud9 and 100 Thieves. That one was a lot of fun. It kind of extended back to what we saw in the lock-in, the caster said, and it just felt like a back-and-forth battle between these two. Eventually, Cloud9 giving 100 Thieves their first loss.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I like this game. Go for it, LS. No, you first.
No, you take it away, Dom. You are Cloud9 after.
No. You know what, LS, man? I know you're gonna have a good take here, so you can go ahead.
All right, I mean, this game was more like Cloud9 versus 100 Sins with the way that this one played out. This was so unenjoyable to watch if you're like a fan of high level play, because this was a clown fiesta. There were so many kills in this game. The game was unlosable for Cloud9 in the early and mid stages, and then Blabber, who was like on track to basically be the MVP in the early start of the game, started like throwing it back into 100 Thieves, and then obviously shut down golds, comeback XP, all this other good jazz. 100 Thieves suddenly actually look like they're probably going to win it, and then 100 Thieves start throwing, and then Cloud9 gets control again, and then at the end of it, I mean, I felt like Perkz just ended up being the MVP. And I think I even tweeted out that I anticipated like Blabber to get the MVP in like a weird like alternate reality type situation, but that Perkz should actually get it. This game was not clean by any means. This game was a complete mess, and I don't know. The mid game was just a disaster.
Yeah, mid game was a disaster. I'd say the early game, I at least like the overall ideas that like happened in the game. So like the TP is used by Fudge to contest the invade. So Cloud9 ended up winning the invade because it's a 5v4, but they lose TP, and then 100 Thieves being able to identify, okay, we have TP advantage, stacking a wave and then diving on the wave bot lane. I thought that was like at least good to see that people are trying to like take advantages of what's happening in the game, and they're making like the correct ideas of like, okay, we can push in this wave, we can TP bot, stack through waves, bring the jungler down, TP bot. The enemy jungler can't be there because he was forced on top side, and you have a map split situation. So I thought that like the trade-offs there actually made sense. I'd say like the early game, like when I see teams like this that actually are able to capitalize on mistakes in the early game, that's like what makes me feel like these teams are going to end up being top 3 at the end, is the fact that like other teams don't do that when they have leads. Like other teams have a fiesta, and then we saw like Dig versus EG, where it's a similar thing where Dig has a huge lead in the level 1, and then you have Kane just like randomly walk into the enemy jungle with 0 prio, no flash, instantly gets killed. Suddenly like he's on the back foot. I mean, he ended up getting back into the game by EG throwing, but like the core ideas don't make any sense. Like if you bring up the clip, you can watch it and you're like, there's no reason you would ever invade here. You have no prio mid, no prio top. Your top laner doesn't even have TP. He just got killed, so you know that the enemy team is there. It's a Lucian versus Zoe. There's like no reason that you should actually be in these situations. So I at least like that 100 Thieves and C9 are making plays based off like cooldowns that are being down by the enemy.
Yeah, and as much as I feel like it wasn't optimal play, it was just I felt like they constantly, the way I always phrase it, is asking questions of each other, just kind of like making them make a play. Most teams were making them make a play, which is why players started throwing. I think you can also look at it in a more positive light of like, hey, by setting up a play that way, 100 Thieves was putting Cloud9 on the back foot, then Cloud9 put 100 Thieves on the back foot, and then 100 Thieves ended up throwing it away, right? Like, is that not a world that we can at least shift it a little bit more positive away from the Cloud9 moniker?
I mean, I don't think it was like, it was, I mean, there was obviously mistakes being made, but I felt like the game was also, accelerated, or like the game was so throwy based off champions as well. Like Rek'Sai is the type of champion where you die once and your game is pretty much over. So like as soon as he dies that one time, he gives a shutdown gold, then the game completely like swings. So there was some clear like mistakes. There was some clear bad situations where it's like, okay, Cloud9 should just win the game here, and then they get both carries are stacking on top of each other. They get 2-man CC. They ended up losing a fight. Like there's definitely moments like that where it's like, okay, it's a clear fuck up, but from my perspective, like when you're playing these types of champions and these types of comps, the game is going to end up being more throwy, because if you ever lose control, like you are just behind.
That's fair.
The one upside for me in this game was actually Perkz' performance, because I mean, it's been very, very volatile, right? And his early laning has been absolutely atrocious in a lot of games. And then he shows up later, right? But relative to like other laners in the league, I mean, Perkz is still better in general, except for like Jensen. So that like that's saying something actually. Mid is like really fragile right now in North America. But this game, I mean, a takeaway for me was actually Perkz' overall performance.
I mean, his side lane's better than
actually quite good.
He's side lanes better than any other mid laner in LCS.
In NA,
maybe.
yes.
Yeah, maybe you can say Jensen side, but even Jensen side laning hasn't been as good. It's so crazy to see, like, Perks will make so many obvious mistakes, right? Like, if you're watching the game, you'll be like, okay, like, to the untrained eye, you can see, like, oh, well, why did he just randomly like die in this situation? Like, he should know where the enemy jungler is. Why is he like having to force a summoner? Like, why is he trading like this? There's so many mistakes he makes in the lane phase. And then if you watch, like, even the FlyQuest game, right, he just randomly will catch up and be up like 20-30 CS in mid game off just pure side laning, because he understands like when to go to the side lane, how many waves he can push, how to capitalize on when people show on the other side of the map. And it shows that, like, the enemy teams, like teams like FlyQuest, have no idea how to deal with that. Like, they'll have the wrong person matching him. They'll have like their AD carry matching him at a point. They'll be like, well, what the fuck? Like, even if the mid laner is behind, if the mid laner is 2 levels up on your AD carry can't actually like win that side lane. So then they have to like switch the AD carry out for the mid laner, and then the mid laner's side laning, but they don't know how to like push waves. Like, one thing that I was watching with Crepo is how many times a side laner in NA will just donkey push the wave for zero reason. Like, they can like wait until 2 wave stacks and just like, you know, push both waves together, or they can like push an extra wave, or they should like not push the wave. Like, there's so many times where people just go into the side lane and they just start like fucking hitting minions, and they just hit the minions as fast as they can, clear the wave, and then just wonder what the fuck's gonna happen next, instead of being able to set up like, okay, this wave is like, you know, we can like either freeze this wave, or we can slow push this wave, or we can like stack 2 waves and then like move on a different timing. Like, there's no like thought that goes into the side laning. And I feel like that's Perks' biggest advantage, is he doesn't even have to like play well to be more useful than mid laners, because he always has this advantage in the side lane.
And if you want a clear example of that, go back and watch Dom's co-stream with the CLG game, right? I think it was like,
it was the FlyQuest game. The FlyQuest game was like the biggest one, I think.
Okay. Because I remember in your co-stream, you were like, yeah, look, there's Finn, or maybe that's what Crepa said. It was like, oh, there's Finn, not donkey pushing it. And then, of course, he starts pushing it right as you said that. That was super hilarious.
Well, there was one game where we actually did like a timer, right? And it was in the EG Dignitas game. And there was a time where not one player went to the bot lane to push it out. And this is like when Baron was like down and stuff. There's no objective on the other side of the map. No person pushed out bot lane for 4.5 minutes. That's crazy. Think about how much gold you're losing. And this is just something that we were discussing and we were talking about. I feel like the biggest disadvantage that NA teams have in general is their inability to, you know, get resources on the map and catch waves. So I would love to see like CS between 15 minutes and 30 minutes in NA, and compare that to like the average CS that you see in like LCK, LPL, and LEC. Because generally speaking, it feels like we just bleed out resources for no reason, because we don't know which waves we should be catching, which waves we should be pushing.
That's an interesting comparison, and maybe that's something we can get from the stats team over at the LCS. I know those guys, and they love trying to find new ways to contextualize the game. So I'll see what I can do, and if we can get that done. Well, cool. That was our game of the week. 100 Thieves, Cloud9. Learned a little bit about both teams there, a little bit more about Perks and his prowess at still being that big carry that team wants. Not just finding ways to win the game, but being an impactful force throughout. Let's take a look at... Next up, let's take a look at our highlight here, and it'll go through the tweet of the week. This came from dear friend of the LCS, maybe could be said one of the GOATs, winningest players in LCS history in terms of championships, Doublelift. Doublelift had some choice words for one of his former teams. Can TL draft like humans next week? Let's find out. LS, you took... particular, it made you feel some type of way, as people like to say. What was that way that you felt?
So I felt like the tweet's really weird because it reinforces an idea of having to do easy things rather than learning how to play things that are better if you learn to walk a thin line, right? And one of the things that instantly comes into my mind is like, so I'm going to reference StarCraft or something, or like even Melee. Certain matchups that are considered like really, really, really hard until players learn how to walk that thin line, in which case the thing that was believed to be good before is just not good. But like in this game, like you can go to, so the thing that's really weird is like Team Liquid, they blunder a ton of free kills, right, in the early stages of the game. Santorin should have literally been down 3 levels because of the early pathing was so rough. Jensen was just doing some random things, not really amounting to much, right? Alfari did not get as far ahead as he likely should have on the Quinn, right? The reality of the situation though is that you have 3 winning we have 3 winning lanes if we define like bot lane going even as like winning because of the nature of it. And then the game, despite all of these things going horribly bad for TL in like a suboptimal manner, what ends up happening is we come to this point in the game where Team Liquid is posturing around Baron. And it's really, there's no way for either team to realistically just stop and do the Baron, right? And somehow, despite so many things going wrong, the game actually developed to this point, even though Team Liquid ended up experiencing a lot of things that I would actually say is unnatural. You know, so it's not something that I think is likely to be recreated. So, I mean, at this stage of the game, when you see the minimap, like Jensen just pushed a wave into top lane, Quinn's down there in bottom lane, Quinn's gonna come up through mid river, and Tactical's gonna shove out the wave, right? But the thing is that after this, they group mid, they shove in mid, they move over to left side jungle. Now, no one can actually do Baron, and there's a minute until Drake comes up. So Alfari's gonna randomly go top lane. Why is Team Liquid here? I mean, it's. I mean, I don't know. There's no justifiable reason. But for some unholy reason, Team Liquid being here when they don't, you know, deserve to, and then end up getting clapped and then losing the game while Alfari's up in top lane. He arrives late. They're divided. They can't do anything. Somehow this has something to do with the draft. Like it just doesn't. I don't know. It just feels really disingenuous. But they end up getting another Infernal, and then they lose the game after this. But like, what happened in the game had nothing to do with the draft whatsoever.
I mean, just look at this fight though. Like, I mean, this is one thing that is so triggering when you're watching this. If you see this fight here, the fact that people can't identify in NA like who the targets are, like itemization, all this stuff, like this gold card coming in, right? Like the people are completely. Here, I'm gonna go back one more time. The players are standing away from each other, so it's really easy to just gold card Kai'Sa. If Kai'Sa gets gold carded, he bought no QSS. He had money for it. He bought a Zeal instead. If he gets gold carded, like he's instant dead and the fight is won. Like this is a crazy situation to go for like the gold card on the Lilia that has Zhonya's. I mean, they're pretty far away from each other at this point. And then the other thing that just triggered me really hard about this game was like the itemization from TL. So. Yeah, so one thing is like if you want to play this lane aggressive, I feel like Cleanse is really good on Rise. If you don't want Cleanse, you want TP, I'm still okay with it, but you have to build Merc Treads. Like the going CDR boots versus TF, I think is just super criminal here. I think Demonte could have sat on a stopwatch. Like he completed his stopwatch into Zhonya's, which I felt was really unnecessary. Like if you want to have the stasis, that's fine, but he didn't even use the stopwatch. So like it feels really weird to upgrade into Zhonya's here where there isn't like that many things that you should need to Zhonya's, and then Tactical not building QSS makes no sense as well. So there was a lot of things that I just didn't like in terms of like itemization. Like TL can win this game if they get Mercs on Rise, they have QSS on Kai'Sa. Like it's definitely a winnable game.
The thing for me also, I mean, Santorin goes Leandries in this game, and then Rise has Leandries, right? So there's some counter effectiveness there, but like HP and movement speed converts to damage as well as EHP, right? From Staff of Flowing Water. But also it's just really valuable. You have Rise, Kai'Sa, and Rel. Lots of champions that have AP ratios. The other thing is that the opponents have to come into you. So if one of the arguments is that like Team Liquid has no front line, right? They can't fight. Well, they don't need a front line because all they have to do is arrive either at an objective and demand 100 Thieves fight them, or they have to be at the objective first, in which case 100 Thieves has to run into them, right? Like that's the two lines of thinking. This is really akin to like Zerg versus Protoss or something in StarCraft, right? And 100 Thieves are the Protoss team composition. So like in a traditional sense, if you're trying to fight in like a, you know, Zug and just fucking go forward like an orcish horde, then yeah, you're going to have a really bad time, right? But if you let Lilia open up the fight and you have proper itemization, 100 Thieves are forced to come into you, right? Because it's ultimately Lilia versus Ezreal. That's what the whole like dance is going to end up being, but Lilia is going to be better. If they're on the objective, they're in a disadvantageous position. If you're already on the objective, you have Lilia versus Ezreal, and then again, they're in a disadvantaged position because they're forced to run into you. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. I think Stormrazor on Alphari is also kind of troll. I understand why he's building it for like kiting purposes, but I think Phantom Dancer is just a lot better. But then also, I mean, yeah, what Dom already pointed out is also totally fine, even more so because Team Liquid's on red side, so 131 has less potency, just due to map layout and proximity to Baron in the later stages, so you don't actually need teleport. But yeah, I don't know. I took gripe with the tweet because I think it reinforces the idea of not learning how to play team comps like this, when the reality is I think if this is Dom 1 versus Dom 1, you always want to beat Team Liquid's team composition, because it's actually not that hard to do these dances. And then the upside is just way too great.
Yeah. I mean, that being said, like after draft, I 100% knew 100 Thieves was going to win this game. Like this is one of those drafts where you can just tell 100 Thieves is a team. If they draft a certain way, DeMonte on like a champion that can impact the map, you know, like power jungler for closer, like you get him a solid matchup. Someday on something stable, Renekton, Gragas, whatever it is. I feel like those are just situations where 100 Thieves thrive. So I feel like, you know, in NA, it's less about, well, like I actually have lower post-draft prediction rate than pre-draft prediction rate, because I feel like it's less about having a good draft and just being like, do you have a good draft for your own team? And you know, 100 Thieves, they got their draft for themselves. You know, like they're gonna win games like this in NA. Like I don't think that TL is gonna be able to, you know. I think that what ends up happening is normally you're just gonna see like TF bans and things like that. That'll be the adaptation instead of actually playing the same draft again.
Well, something that's really interesting is the point that you just mentioned about post-draft prediction rate. I remember when I was doing it for LEC, LCK, and NA, I had the least accuracy out of the regions, because it almost just feels like the players can't like live up to it's really weird.
That's what I was going to say. It feels like LSU thinking optimally this draft should win, and here's the NA spaghetti all over the place. Whereas Dom's like, oh, this draft isn't necessarily the optimal draft, but it's the optimal draft for this team. So like, what do you go with? And you go with what it works for that team, right? So when we say what is the best draft, it's like a fit. What's the best fit for the team?
Yeah, I mean, I predicted CLG to win like a couple of these games too. Like I predicted them post draft. I'm like, oh, of course they're gonna win this, and yeah, they just never do. So you know, it is what it is. I mean, I guess they beat Golden Guardians, but it's been rough in terms of my post draft predictions in LCS. It feels like bottom teams are just super coin flip. Like you don't know what Immortals is showing up. Are they actually gonna like play lanes well? Are they gonna be able to like make proactive things happen, or are they gonna roll over and die? It's really hard to tell.
Yeah, well, this was a good look at draft playing a big part of it, with Team Liquid a part of it. Another game that Team Liquid was a part of, which I think was an interesting one because it showed a little bit more of what TSM can be, was the TSM versus TL game where Power of Evil got the Azir 6-0-3, Spica 2-0-7 on that one. Lilia, and it was Gnar for Huni on the top side of the map. Alphari is playing Kennen, but that game broke pretty far open, I think, down on the bottom side of the map where Power of Evil really just opened it up there. TSM versus TL, thoughts on this one, guys?
Man, take it away, Dom.
I mean, I just think I think it's weird to see Alphari struggling so much in lanes. Like it feels like his laning has been way worse than I would expect. Like he got solo killed by Revenge. He's playing like these like counter picks, or like he's getting pick into people. Like he lost the Quinn into like Renekton matchup for all intents and purposes in the previous game. This Kennen game, he's having his flash blown by Huni 1v1. I don't know what's happening with Alphari, but I feel like his laning is nowhere close to what we would expect. But the biggest takeaway from me this game is this was like the first time where TSM actually looked somewhat coordinated in what they were trying to do. So I mean, this is like probably the cleanest game that they played, or I can't even say probably. This was definitely the cleanest game that TSM played. So I mean, this is the team that I think can be top 4 if they're able to do this consistently. And they also didn't completely sabotage Spica in terms of draft. So that's always good. When your jungler can play the game, that's always good.
Yeah, no, I agree with Dom. I think TSM, in a really weird series of events, I mean, I said this yesterday on stream, the most recent 2 games that TSM played are some of the cleanest that we've seen in 2021 out of LCS in general, if not the cleanest. I think their game from yesterday was probably arguably the cleanest so far that North America showed. But in general, yeah, Team Liquid Team Liquid seem really hit or miss with a lot of stuff that ends up going on, and I feel like they're extremely dependent on lane kingdoming their opponents. And when the lane kingdoms aren't executed, it seems like their level of play completely falls apart. And then their tendency to draft predominantly only for lane kingdom and only for early advantages, it doesn't mean anything, right? When we're going to end up getting to international competition and whatnot, because they're not going to be lane kingdoming international level players. And obviously, yeah, I agree with you as well that Alphari's laning has been looking weaker than I think people would have anticipated, but still compared to a lot of any other NA players, Alphari is still really good. So,
well, where's that balance supposed to be? If like we know that this whole long season kind of like is one big year, and each win matters. Yes, you want to be prepared for international play at some point, but if that's your advantage, which is lane kingdoming, like how do you balance winning now with lane kingdoming and then perfecting your macro in the process? Like how do you balance that? Do you risk taking the L's now because your macro isn't as good or your strategy isn't as good?
I mean, I think it depends on what you consider lane kingdoming, but you can do like things in draft where you're not like really lane kingdoming. You're just like picking well, where you have like a jungler that has like, so for example, right now, one of the meta ways to win the game is you draft a strong early jungler like Udyr, Olaf. Yeah, one of these types of champions. Even I think Skarner is like pretty fucking good right now, and I wish more people were playing it. And then what you do is you full clear down to Dragon, you draft a prio bot lane, and you just play for the early dragons, because essentially these types of champions like Udyr, Olaf, etc., they can actually just do the dragon like in front of somebody's face and just get an advantage, and you just play for like soul like that. So you don't actually have to lane kingdom in terms of like outperform your opponent. You can literally just pick a lane that has natural prio and just play the game well, and then you'll win like that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, and in the sense that you can draft lanes that like by going even or something, it's considered also winning. Like I mean, I just referenced right the rel bot lane from the highlight thing that we just had before. And then also I like your point about Skarner. Skarner I think is super undervalued right now, and I imagine that like with the jungle changes that are coming in 11.4, Skarner's only going to be better because all the other junglers are basically going to get hit by that a lot harder. And obviously QSS tax is pretty nuts. So
yeah, you can't
Skarner's
actually
really,
buy
really
QSS. It's like what people think. They're like, oh, dude, like Skarner becomes useless if you buy QSS. Like one of your laners
items are so expensive.
Yeah, if he has to spend,
they're so expensive. Yeah,
if they have to spend 1,300 gold on a QSS, like you don't need to actually hook anyone to win the fight. You just literally play front to back, and your carries will just out DPS by a huge margin. So I think that this champion is like really, really hard to punish. I mean, what it really is like people just finally came to realize like, oh, after all the Skarner Q buffs, now you just Q max into W max, and E just you use it as a 1-point wonder again. And with Phase Rush, your catch range is so huge. Like after the Phase Rush buffs, you literally flash ult somebody, or you run in and you chem tank ult somebody, and you drag them like from the enemy mid lane tier 1 turret to your own mid lane turret. It's actually absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And the other thing is just itemization was a massive buff to Skarner. Like champions like Skarner, champions like Rammus, if they wanted to go for that like catch build, they would have to sacrifice a lot of tank stats and a lot of it would be a much later spike. If you wanted to get Righteous Glory, which is essentially your turbo chem tank, that was 2,600 gold, and you had to build Cinder Hulk, which was 2,500 gold, and you didn't really get stats. Now Turbo Chem Tank, you get health, you get the burn, you get armor, MR, and you get the engage potential all within one item.
Yep.
And what is happening here?
Yeah,
what happened?
Dom just got Skarnered all the way off the screen.
What the hell?
Yeah.
That was awesome.
QSS tax.
Man, Joe is
No
having
QSS.
too much fun with
Dom
production.
doesn't believe in it.
What the fuck?
And that was I think that is a thing that people forget. Like, yes, in your SoloQ game, you can just go and buy QSS, no problem. But when you're playing at this level, 1,300 is again, right, just massive amounts of damage that per auto attack, that your per cycle of damage that you're putting out, you're just missing a whole big
and it doesn't actually matter if your carry has QSS, like, okay, you can just pull the support. Like, until all 5 players have QSS, it's not like super fucking relevant who has QSS, because in most normal game states, one pick on anyone with Skarner is going to be a team fight win. So like it's not like the type of thing where it's like, oh well shit, now you can't hook the 80 carry. Like, I mean, if you flash and you ulti the support, Like all these supports, they just die instantly if they're not able to proc their aftershock. Like you go and you drag a Rel, you drag a Leona, whatever. If they don't proc their aftershock, you flash on them, you walk up to them, whatever. The fight is won. So this champion is broken right now.
Yep, I see it. The Skarner, Udyr, and Rammus with the Peepo runs. That's definitely what it feels like in the LCS right now. So with we took that Skarner exit for a little bit. I kind of wanted to bring this back into Team Liquid. Team Liquid now sitting at 3-3, kind of in the middle. They had we'll be fair, they had a tougher schedule than what Dignitas had to go through this week, but kind of in the middle of the pack. You hit on Alfari a little bit. What are some of the other pain points that this team is starting to feel right now?
I mean, they're playing harder drafts to execute than other teams, so it feels like they're actually like, even if they're losing games, they can easily reel it in if they're playing purely to like win LCS games, right? Like if they're just like, hey, we just want to like, we're just trying to fucking get the dub here every time, then they can move back to like playing, you know, stable top sides, like whatever. They don't have to pick things like Kennen into Gnar. They don't have to pick, you know, they don't need to pick things like Quinn into Renekton. They can just pick things like Gragas and not have as difficult win conditions, where if they do group up like they naturally do in some of these fights, they'll be able to win them. They won't have like to play side lanes as well.
I mean, I would be of the other school of thought where like if winning and if like actually becoming a better team and then you know, having international success would be the end goal, then I think utilizing such drafts versus like lower tier teams is obviously like totally viable, right? As a strategy, because otherwise it doesn't matter if you just only focus on winning LCS by just being better players and always drafting easier comps. You're just going to lose, right? Come MSI or, well, I don't know if MSI is even happening, but Worlds will happen. So
yeah, essentially what I'm saying is not that they need to do that. I'm just saying that for them as a team, like I'm not as worried about it because it feels like they're kind of playing to improve rather than playing to like win every single LCS game.
And this goes back to the point I was making earlier with you, LS, where it was like, hey, how does a team balance it, right? You know, compared to lane kingdoming or just picking this easier draft. And it seems like TL is picking the way to improve, but you know, not getting the dubs in it. So hopefully, do you feel like they're getting the lessons that they need to learn to properly execute this play? Because if we go back to the video that we rolled earlier with 100 Thieves versus Team Liquid, you know, I think they knew how to fight that team fight. I think they knew Alfari didn't need to be top lane. Like they know those things, right?
I hope so. They're not playing a team fight, team comp.
Yeah, I would say that they're probably not aware, right? I mean, I call this measuring intent when I try to evaluate like what are people doing, right? Intention is like something that you can see that is devoid of mechanics. The fact that like all four of them are over there just meandering around and doing fuck all nothing. I mean, I don't know what to think. They should just never be there. But then they do a lot of other stuff. Jensen in particular, like with side lanes, he'll just randomly push stuff or be overextended for no reason whatsoever. TL just does a lot of things that seem almost thoughtless in nature, and they just rely on having a lot of the better players to end up winning. So I don't know. I would also say that like looking at their match history, even through lock-in and whatnot, I mean, I think that their team comps are definitely much more on the edge of having to basically choke out their opponent than just actually relying on like mid-game or late-game prowess. Not all the time. They do have some comps that are in there. But yeah, I think that's the most, that's pretty much it.
Gotcha. Right. Well, I think, and I like trying to craft and set you up in positions to explain those types of things, like looking for intent, right? What is the intent here? Because those are things that both of you guys, as pros, like, you know what they're intending to do. Other people are like, they're just out there. They're not playing to their comp. Well, maybe that's what they wanted, or whatever. So thank you for breaking that down on focusing on the intent of the team compared to what the output was. All right, so we hit TL, we hit TSM. Our last game that we wanted to hit here was Cloud9 and Evil Geniuses. Because that was at the beginning of the week. That was the day one matchup there. Blabbers, Svenskarian going head to head in the jungle, where Evil Geniuses took the win away from Cloud9. And to me, that was an interesting one because I thought this would set up Evil Geniuses for a great week, as you know, the big Deathly fanboy I am, which ended up being incorrect. But either way, in this matchup here, Impact looked great against Fudge. Sven actually looked like the better former Cloud9 jungler, you know, than Blabber at that time. Like, this looked like an Evil Geniuses who might have, and maybe because you guys set it up like this, it was they have a lower ceiling but a higher floor than people. In this one, it looked like they were reaching their ceiling or possibly pushing their ceiling a little bit. What are your thoughts here in this Evil Geniuses Cloud9 matchup? This was Fudge on Camille against Gragas in the top lane. It was Talia Graves in the jungle. Jizuke was on Rise against Perks' Galio. And then definitely Ignar were Senna Tom Kench against Kaisa Blitzcrank.
It just felt like it was an off game pretty much all across the board for Cloud9. And the only person who was getting kills or like getting stuff was Perks inside of that game, if I recall. And I don't know. I thought the whole draft was really, really, really weird and that it looked really bad. And I know that we had, or I've been on the coach stream, I think I had Max Waldo, who's one of the coaches for Cloud9, come on. And I know that, you know, he felt pretty similar. And that it was very, very bizarre. And from talking to some of the players after, they felt like it was weird and that it was just an off game that got doomed really early.
Yeah, I mean, it was really. I think one thing that was really evident in this game was how their mentality is as a team. Like when bot lane started fighting, like it's clear that they're not playing with carry tops well. And if you look at this draft identity, you have Camille Galio. Like you need your Camille to be relevant in this game. So the Camille can't TP to like these bot fights and things like that. Like I think that that's where the game really was doomed. I mean, if Camille's wave is bad, you have to play it selfishly. Don't TP. Push in your wave, the enemy Gragas TPs, like take a plate, trade on the other side of the map, and play through that Camille. If the Camille is weak, I don't understand how you play the game. The other thing is I think that they don't really prep that well into EG. I mean, Impact got, you know, a stable top laner, and then they drafted in a way that sets up Jizuke's Rise, where he's like a Rise one trick in a way, where his Rise is above the level of the rest of his champions. You don't want to set up and I think that they banned really weird stuff. Actually, let me look back here. What did they ban? Oh yeah, they banned they banned Orianna. I think there was a TF ban. There's a Syndra ban. Where I feel like you want Jizuke to have to play something like Orianna or Syndra. You'd much rather have that situation than let him play a comfortable pick for him like Rise. So for me, I think that it was just strange that they decided to play a comp where, you know, everyone on EG just gets complete comfort.
When and I want to get a little bit of the insights there. When you're talking to Max Waldo, one of the coaches over at Cloud9, and some of the players, don't give the insider information, but like things that were said publicly. What does a off game mean? Like what is that? How does that manifest for the Cloud9 players, the ones that are in it? Like when they're like, yeah, it felt like an off game because this happened. Well, like what does that mean?
I think some of the players are quick to like, I know that if like even small things will go wrong, some of them will just think the game's doomed. Like really early on. And as soon as that starts happening, coupled with like a draft that it is just seemingly really weird or like hyper conditional on like really weird things, then it's just like one of those games that are just like a best of one and you just lose it. But I don't think that it's necessarily reflective on how Cloud9 is going to perform overall, like long term or something, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and to your point there, Dom, about the draft and what Jizuke gets put on the rest of this week. So he played Rise, popped off, was able to exert pressure on the map as he normally does.
Look at what his Lucian looks like. It literally looks like he's intentionally feeding in some of these stats. Like it actually looks like he's trolling in some of these stats.
1 in 5 on Lucian and 1 in 4 on LeBlanc. So
yeah, I feel like Jizuke. I don't know. I need to like he is like bottom 3 mid laner in LCS, and that actually that is I mean that is strong. Saying something. But then on top of that, he's consistently playing champions in matchups where they're designed to get edges, and I almost feel like it's like intentionally being done this way to showcase that he's not, or like to cover up or hide how actually weak he is as a player. Like even in some of the lock-in tournaments where like he ended up getting bailed out. There was that game against Immortals, right? With Zoe Nidalee just randomly winning the flip when mid lane was like totally over.
Oh
This
yeah,
guy
where he
totally
killed himself.
blunders every laning phase. It's almost like it's a casino in my co-streams at this point. Like, will Jizuke fuck up lane by free? Like, he can't spell mid lane, man. He just can't spell mid at all. It's just so weird. I wonder if the guy even plays anymore. Like,
he does. Does he
play?
Games.
Like
yeah,
SoloQ and stuff?
my games. I mean, unless somebody else uses his tag,
okay.
he's playing. He's playing. He's played like 150 games in early season, which I respect. He's played more than I have for sure. So he's
okay.
As he should.
I couldn't tell. Couldn't tell.
Well, I mean, he obviously has scrims and stuff, so I probably have more time play than he does. But he's been grinding. I just feel like
but okay. So this. Oh, I want to highlight something. NA scrims are 5 or 4 games. That's all they are. They're 5 or 4 games.
Yeah.
Right? So 5 or 4 games is a joke. Because Korean players and LPL players and whatnot,
here we go.
they have
Tell us about
2 to 3
how
scrim
the East does it. The scrim.
No. It's not even just about the
Grind
East
their
though.
face in the keyboards, and they've got DNF right here.
No. I mean, I think EG does the. I mean,
it's a problem. Like what you're mocking right now is actually a cultural issue. It's not funny. It's a really big problem. Players that are actually really good take the solo queue ladder really serious. I don't know why you're mocking it. This is actually you're actually highlighting and glorifying the problem.
No,
and pretending that it's not a problem.
No, I'm highlighting it.
I know, but it's really strange. Like it is a problem. Like Sword Art comes, he plays a lot, right?
There's multiple conversations about how this works. So, but go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you
I mean,
off.
it's really we can't think like this. I mean, it speaks to work ethic, right? Like Dom's trying to say that Jizuke has an excuse. Dom co-streams, live views, multiple different regions, lives in multiple different time zones, right? I was playing more than some players, despite being like super inactive, right? You're supposed to be playing scrim games, and then if you're bad, you should be probably trying to play more. Now, we don't know if he's doing like 1v1s or like scrims or anything like that, but this guy's level of play is awful. Like, if there was more teams in the league, like Academy, he's probably like, I don't know, he's not import level, you know?
I don't know. He's also like he's like a solved player in a way where you know which games and which champions he's going to be able to do stuff on, and it doesn't feel like he's working like. I can't say this for sure, right? This is just my interpretation. It feels like he doesn't think that his flaws are actual flaws. Like if you ask this guy, like, can you play like Orianna? Can you play like Azir really well? Yeah. To him, I feel like he thinks that he could, like, he doesn't need to practice those champions more. He's played them for years. Where in reality, it's like the standard of play that he's going to be held to on those champions is going to be, it should be way higher than what it is right now. And it's like he would rather just play the things that are like fun for him, or play the things that he feels like he can pop off on. But I mean, yeah, I mean, we have the clip here of Jizuke just straight running it, right? Like this is something where I don't know, man. Like, it's so hard for me to see this and then think like, yeah, like this guy is playing 100% seriously. Like if I saw this in my solo queue game, I would question mark ping this at least once. Like,
and right before that, he died to tower. Like that was the back-to-back run-up.
Yeah, so for me, I mean, I don't even know how this type of stuff happens at LCS, and I was having a conversation with Crepa, I believe, about it, where I feel like how much of this actually comes down to like people playing from a comfortable setup, the fact that they're not on stage, because I don't feel like we saw plays like that on stage. Like it seems really crazy to me that's like happening in a game. I mean, like you've won the trade already, and then even if you look at it again, watch Soligo's flash. Like it just looks so mechanically unclean. It's really, really disgusting. And I don't really know why this is happening so much. And that's why I'm starting to, I'm talking to people about what it could possibly be. Like, is it the fact that, people are playing from home? Is it the fact that, they're not physically in a different location? Like, look at Soligo's flash here. He flashes, then he like randomly like paths back into him. Like, what is this, man? Like it's.
So what I think is happening here, I can actually, I mean, we don't have his pro view, but I would bet money on this. I would bet a very high amount of money on this. His mini map is on the bottom right, and he clicked it, and it clicked up near where Kane and Gangplank is, and then he pathed back in. Yeah, that's what I think is happening. And this is an interesting way that you can actually tell a player's mechanics when you see mistakes like this. Yeah. He clicked actually at the turret, I think, based on Zoe's face. I think he clicked at the turret. Based on Zoe's face angle. I think it was the turret.
Look, I'm not saying that I've never done this before, but I'm like, I feel like if you're a mid laner, you know, like if you're a mid laner, you gotta have, you can't be, I don't know. It looks really bad to me. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. To close it out, because I feel like I pushed that on you way too hard.
Okay, so wait, just like Jizuke's play was even worse than that. So like they're both playing mid lane in an LCS game, and this is like what's going on. Like it doesn't feel real. And when you watch this entire game, this is one of those games where you can't even learn anything from it. There was so much random fighting. It's like, oh, well, I guess we lost the game contesting a Wraith camp, like TPing into a Wraith camp for no reason at like 15 minutes. Like, all right, guys, like, let's not do that again. Like, you don't actually set yourself up in ways. Like, so for example, when FlyQuest lost to C9, they lose not by trolling, because they actually just didn't know how to play the side lanes as well as C9. So C9 gets a bunch of advantages for no reason, and then C9 is able to just like come to team fights stronger because they just were able to like slowly catch up by playing side lane well. So you can review that as FlyQuest and be like, okay, so like what did we do wrong here? Okay, when did Perks decide to go to the side lane? Who should have matched him? Like, what should we have done when Perks walked up there? Is he actually as safe as he thinks he is? Why is this guy allowed to push to tier 2? How did he set up vision? Can we set up vision so that our side laner feels safe enough to push up and actually abuse his lead? Like, all these types of things can be learned. So that's why like the FlyQuest game I think is so much better for improvement. But this EG Dignitas game, it's such a fiesta and it looks so troll that I don't think you can really like learn anything from it. Like, all right, what are you gonna do? You're gonna go into the review and you're gonna be like, Dardoch, man, yeah, like what do you think about invading no flashes Kayn into Gnar, Lucian that both have prio, and you have no, like, flashless Kayn invading with no prio? Like, what do you think about this? Like, oh yeah, it's probably a bad play, I probably shouldn't do it again. Like, what do you learn from it? You don't actually get better. So that's like my issue with games like that, is it feels like until we start like really playing these games seriously, and like maybe this is just everyone giving 100% and that's just what it looks like, and that's the actual level of the players. If it's like that, then maybe it's just so fucking doomed that there's nothing we can do. But if we're not trying as hard as we possibly can on stage, like these are the types of games where you're missing opportunities to learn.
For sure.
I don't have anything to add on that.
Yeah, I don't think there's too much to add on to that.
Yeah.
It made me really angry. That game made me super upset. Like,
by the way, for apologists for Jizuke, I mean, all right. So the thing is like the mid laner. So I did the LCS. I did my own like take on the LCS mid laners, right? Yesterday on stream with Nemesis. There's Jensen, Perks, Power of Evil, RJS, Palafox, Demonte, and Insanity, Jizuke, Blaze Olive, Saligo, right? Jizuke is really close with those bottom mid laners. If you just go through his games, he gets bailed out in a lot of situations. He RNGs like a lot of random kills. Literally just go through the odds, man. Can't spell mid lane. Mana management, positioning in lane, recall timers. I mean, even the fact that he's always in an advantageous matchup typically, and yet you can't tell. Like, there's just so much wrong.
He was playing against. Was he playing LeBlanc into Lucian? What I was gonna say is, like, if you look at the matchups, like if he makes decisions where it feels like he hasn't played the matchup before, or like he's like limit testing or something. Like in that game that he was playing LeBlanc versus Tristana, and he just W's in level 1 to the Tristana, and then the Tristana just E's like autos him twice, and then he's suddenly 200 HP. And the clone or whatever got procced, and you know the guy ended up getting experience off the clone, so he hits level 2 early. Like it doesn't look natural. Okay. It's like he doesn't know which times he can actually trade in lane. I mean, LS, for context, I was just talking about. Do you remember the lane phase of LeBlanc versus Tristana, where he W'd in level 1, lost half his HP to the Tristana for no reason? That was essentially what I was talking about.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. It's rough, but like, yeah, I mean, he can play a good Ryze. If you pick Syndra, he'll probably play a decent Echo. Like, he has the champions that he's good on. He just does random things if he's not on those champions.
Right, and I need to go back, Ellis. I need to clarify this because I don't want it to be like, hey, I'm making fun of you or the Korean side of things. It's just this season, it was applauded on the changes that were made cross scrims, cross the schedule itself, which is to find the LCS and NA's own way for getting better. That was the whole point of it. That was the whole point of it. Yeah.
I just think it speaks volumes, right? When that, I think the change is positive. I think the 5 games is actually, that's fine for scrims, right? It's what you do outside of that 5 scrims that I think sets precedent for like what do you actually care about? You know what I mean? 5 scrims, 4 or 5 scrims a day is not a lot. I mean, that's just it's a pathetic amount,
dude. When I was a player, we triple block. We do literally 8 scrims.
Right. So it's insane for me to think that like this is something that should be like passed on or like said that it's okay. I don't think it's the case.
Yeah, and I think the focus here, and I don't know, I haven't talked to a GM in a little while, but like I think the focus here is on player mental health and how the grinding, you know, just burns them out. They need to find other ways to release, and that is partially why, you know, you don't see players grinding as many games as pros in Korea or in the East, right? That's why. And I
just think that like that is kind of like BS. Like the whole idea of like, oh well, like you can't grind super hard and have a healthy lifestyle. You could easily play League 12 hours a day, sleep for 8, go to the gym, eat food, like have an hour to do some other shit. And like I just feel like these like a lot of the players don't actually love the game anymore. Like they're not addicted to the game. And I feel like you need to get yourself addicted to the game to actually like become a really good player and to improve. Like you have to love it. You have to be constantly thinking about it. You need to be like playing in scrims and being like, damn, like, okay, like scrims are over. What champions do I want to play in SoloQ? Like, oh shit, like this happened. I want to like, maybe Skarner's really OP. I want to put in like 5 games of Skarner, like, you know, and just try to like learn the champion, like see what's happening. You should like want to watch other VODs like, oh shit, like who, like, okay, I want to learn this champion. What was Zanzara doing? This guy is like a Skarner one trick. And then look in SoloQ. Who's doing well in SoloQ? Could any of these champions potentially be meta? Like, we have a guy named Lord Semi who's playing from Brazil, right? He's currently top 30 on the ladder, playing Rammus a lot. And you know what? This guy is winning a lot of games. I'm not saying that Rammus is OP, but like, I played into this guy a lot. If you play into him as a jungler, maybe explore that. See like where your advantages can get instead of just doing what your job
Complacency is killing NA. And then also this idea of like, I don't know how to describe it. I don't know. But also like even looking at Twitch chat right now is also like concerning. I don't know.
Well, no, but like, so wait. One thing I want to say is like people are like, dude, Lord Semi is so bad. Like that's the interpretation, right? Like I've also said this. Like I don't think this guy is good. If somebody is really bad and he's 800 LP, top 30, playing a champion, then maybe if you play the champion, you'll realize that the champion is actually really fucking good. Like that's more credence to the idea of playing always, the champion.
Yes. When really, well, like when I have no opinion on Lord Semi. I've never watched him. I've never seen him. But when really bad players can actually get really high with the champion, it's often actually indicative that the champion's imbalanced.
Yeah. So
more often than not. Yeah. You know.
It is what it is. What were you gonna say about Twitch chat before I jumped in?
No. I mean, I think Twitch chat pandering to like, you know, apparently EU, Korea, and China are, you know, having like obscene work ethics somehow is a bad thing. I mean, I don't know what to say about it. I mean, there's a reason, you know. No.
And it's time. Again, right? It is not just a Twitch chat thing. It is something that has been pushed a lot, right, by narratives, by GMs, by teams that like, hey, look, we want to find a work-life balance, which is good, that's important, but also very few people get to take this path and take this life of being a professional player at a game. And therefore, if you want to be the best, and the last time a non-Chinese or Korean team won Worlds was back in 2012, season 2, TPA won it. The proof's in the pudding on how I would also, I mean, I have this conversation all the time. If you go back in my videos in 2014, I've always cited cultural reasons that the West performs poorly, but that Europe will always remain ahead of North America because we have like 22 years history of esports across various titles that like support this notion. If the game is played on a global scale, right? We're not going to literally talk about Mortal Kombat where North America is the only fucking country that plays it, and you know, like Smash is interesting, right? Because Europe had like super insane players, but it was harder for Europe to actually get practice than NA. And like in a weird turn of events, right? So like Smash is an interesting one, but like sometimes they'll cite like Mortal Kombat and stuff, which I think is dominated by North America. But like games that are played by like Japan, China, and Korea and stuff as well, NA does not perform well, right?
the only times where foreigners seem to, like games on a global scale where foreigners do well, is when the systems or the foundations that were previously in place fall apart. And to this, I reference StarCraft 2. Now, like StarCraft 2, Warcraft 3, Asia still dominates it really hard, but there's a couple of foreigners that can take games off of elite level Koreans and stuff. The engines in those countries died. The Korean ladder is a joke now compared to what it used to be. There's no team houses for Korea. Korean pros play less, way less than they played before. Sometimes they even play less than foreigners. Sometimes they don't even play at all. They just show up for tournaments. And there's a lot of other things, right? So like using those as bases are not arguments, because if the Korean engine or like the Chinese engine or Japanese engine was actually like online, you're not going to win like with like Western approach methods. And we have so many years of documentation to support this.
Yeah.
All right, that was my long speech.
But I mean, the other thing is just like, dude, you just have to love the game. Like, you have to just want to play the game all the fucking time. And if you don't want that, like, yeah, if the way people always reference it is they're like, dude, look at how much a normal person works. This shouldn't feel like work. Like, if you playing SoloQ after scrims is work to you, then you're already in like the fucking, you're already in like the zone where you're pretty much just gonna end up being relatively worthless, like as a player over time. So
one of the things that. Yeah, no, I just wanted to add on this. Like, one of the things that I've noticed about like up and coming talent, whether it be in NA or EU, they still seem to love the game. They still seem excited whenever you talk to them, or they seem really happy to like try things out and reach out to each other and talk amongst each other. Like, these people need to very quickly replace these bottom feeders. Like, really, really, really fast. Because the skill discrepancy is just not fucking there. And I don't know what narratives need to start getting fucking spun so that these, like, retirement home Andes just get, like, moved out of their positions. But something needs to just change. I don't know. It's so sick. They're so bad.
So I mean, I think it goes back to...
Don't hang on either. I feel like it's also the players. Yeah. Like, don't hang on. Like... When I didn't want to play pro anymore, I like stopped playing. Like, I didn't go from like, oh, I'm on like a top team. Now I'm going to be like on a bottom team trying to fucking steal paychecks and make a mockery. Like, have some like respect for yourself. And like fucking, if you don't think that you want it as bad as you did before, if you don't think you want to win worlds, if that's not your mentality, just fucking retire. Like, coach, do something else. Turn on your stream, man. Like, co-stream some LCS. I don't know. Do something else. Just don't fucking like sit there and waste people's time.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to what we had Core's tweet from last week, which was 2020 league better than 2021 league, right?
Dude.
And I think it's a mixture of both things. The output is lower because we got younger players and newer talent, and they're trying to figure it out, and they're putting the puzzle pieces together. But then also, you got older guys that are there that aren't performing as well, right? I mean,
right.
Let's rank Jizuke, like, right? Compared to Jizuke, how many younger guys are ahead of him right now? You know, and Jizuke's kind of in this like 7th, 8th kind of place right now in terms of mids.
I mean, it's literally just depending on what champion he actually picks. Though, like, that's the weird thing is like his overall like understanding of mid isn't that good, but like the champions that he plays well like can be answers to a lot of the meta picks. So like Ryze is good into TF, and Galio. You have Echo, which is good into Syndra. It's playable into Azir. You have like all these situations where like he can still outperform people that are younger than him, even without being necessarily good at the role, because he's, you know, practicing the champion and he has like some ingrained like good concepts where like he does play side lane better than most mid laners. And even if he's trolling the lane phase, kind of like how Perks is trolling the lane phase, he still can get advantages elsewhere. So it's like strange. Like I would bet on him to be like more useful than a lot of like the rookies coming in, but it's just like, yeah, I mean, I think the rookies will be better than him soon. Like, I definitely think that he needs to change his approach or he's going to be on the way out.
All right. Well, we hit a lot of topics today. Went really fast. Guys, want to close anything out before we sign off for today? LS, you want to go first?
No, I mean, I don't have any, I don't have anything like off the top of my head. Like, I'm excited to see how the next couple of weeks are going to obviously pan out. I'm looking forward to like meta shifts. Like, one of the things that really bothers me in North America right now is everyone's just playing the same stuff. It really doesn't feel like there's deviation.
I have a question. What do you think the next meta is going to be? Because I like tweeted out
Enchanters.
About it. Well, like jungle meta specifically because of
tank utility junglers and enchanters. And there's still going to be a few carries that can still remain in the jungle, but they're going to be few and far between.
I think we're getting back. I tweeted out. I think we're getting back into like the Skarner Trundle meta.
Yeah. So one of the things, though, I think that's going on is a lot of teams, they might play like a lot of enchanters, but then they don't couple them with hypers. And so they might reach false conclusions and then like using magical thinking conclude that like enchanters aren't as good as they are. But they're definitely really good. Like,
So what is the duo of it?
No, I mean, like Aurelia is insane with enchanters, right? Jax is insane with enchanters. Hyper carry marksmen are insane with enchanters. Like champions that can really be enabled by like AoE shielding and healing and movement speed amplifiers and yada yada yada. All of these things are really important.
Yeah. All right, well, there you go. You all at home now ahead of the curve of what the meta is going to be by our two experts here. Talked a lot about TL, 100 Thieves, TSM, had a quick bit about Dignitas, and of course, the pain points that plague NA LCS growth right now, and hopefully we'll find the answers to those. Again, thanks so much to VENN Esports. Follow them at VENN Esports. The clip, the whole show will be uploaded at VENN Esports, and of course, our cartoon Still Scaling will be on there. We'll be back next week for week 3 of the LCS here on Facecheck. Thanks, everybody. See ya.
Hey, thanks for watching VENN Esports. Make sure to hit that subscribe button below and explore the other videos. In fact, click on the videos that are on the screen right here. They're right here. Click on them.